U.S. stocks climbed on Monday after better than expected eco data overshadowed concerns about an increase in coronavirus cases. Let's get some insight on those market moves with Caravel Concepts Chairman and CEO Michael Jones. Michael, great to have you with us. Of course, the data was U.S. pending home sales posting a record gain, really exceeding all forecasts. Can we expect the housing sector to lead the recovery here in the U.S.? And what would that mean for potential valuations in the sector?
Well, that's certainly our thesis. We pretty much have been expecting since the Federal Reserve embraced modern monetary theory, started printing the money to finance sort of unlimited spending out of Washington. We've had two themes. We felt like the housing market and eventually the equity markets would probably bubble. And the housing markets would be particularly on a rocket ship because COVID-19 suspended construction. We already had a very thin inventory in U.S. housing markets. Now you add to that record low mortgage rates, and I think you have a recipe for powerful home construction, powerful home sales, and ultimately price appreciation that'll probably get a little too frothy.
So does that sector pose a risk? And if we are expecting the housing market to recover, can we also extrapolate that other sectors like manufacturing will do well as well?
Well, I would say the housing sector will eventually form a risk, but that will be several years down the road. I would think if you think about the last housing bubble we went through in 2007 and then the bust in 2008, 2009, we're probably 2004, 2005. So rather than worrying about the housing market right now, what we would look at it as the engine that's going to help pull the rest of the U.S. economy out of the tremendous slump that COVID-19 put us into. On the other hand, you mentioned manufacturing, and we think the pain in the manufacturing sector is probably going to be with us for a while. Probably the poster child for that. Boeing got some good news today. You know, the 737 MAX is possibly going to be recertified. The FAA started the testing process, but that isn't going to necessarily create demand for that plane. And right now, Boeing is sitting on $80 billion of unsold planes. To put that in context, they had $8 billion at the last recession in 2007, 2008. So they're sitting on a lot of unsold planes. They could go a year without making another plane, and they would still have enough inventory to meet demand. That means because so much of U.S. manufacturing is tied to Boeing and tied to energy, you take those two sectors, we think neither are going to have a tremendous recovery off of the COVID-19 damage that's been done, and that's probably a headwind that manufacturing will face for the next couple of years.
So that's aside for industry. There's an enormous amount of headwinds when it comes to the service sector and consumer-facing businesses, right, too, because we are now starting to see, the theme of having to, reimpose restrictions. We're just getting a line out now from the Arizona governor ordering the closure of bars, clubs, gyms for the next 30 days, being reported by the AP. Is this a real concern? Because the WHO is saying that the worst is yet to come. We have no real idea as to how the trajectory of this virus and the associated, productivity and economic loss is going to play out.
Well, I think there are two time frames where you have to think about COVID-19. First of all, there's between now and the end of the year. And I don't think there's any question that you have to say that the U.S. has botched the economic reopening from COVID-19 shutdowns. Europe reopened with infection rates down 85, 90% from peak. The U.S. reopened with infection rates only down 30%. That made us vulnerable to a second spike, and lo and behold, we're living through it. Europe implemented aggressive testing and contract testing. The U.S. didn't. All of these things mean that between now and the year end, that you're going to go through another phase of economic pain, not nearly as severe as what we went through with the total lockdown, but there's going to be a loss of momentum and confidence that's going to push out the return to whatever normal is going to look like for the airlines, for travel businesses, and so forth. However, we strongly believe that by the time we get to year end, we are going to have a vaccine. and that there are several vaccine manufacturers who are committing to going ahead and manufacturing the vaccines before they actually get FDA approval. That means that we'll be able to deploy the vaccine faster than has ever been done historically. So it's a 2020 problem. By 2021, we think that there will be much less concern about COVID-19 because we'll have valid vaccines.
Michael, really great to have you with us. Caravel Concepts Chairman and CEO Michael Jones there.